Players Pick podcast is brought to you in part by Kiesel Custom Guitars. A lot of you know that I work directly with Jeff Kiesel and the team there, and a whole range of artists that are on the roster. We're excited that so many of you out there have joined the family and got your first Kiesel. Some of you are on your 20th Kiesel. It's something that's a little infectious. Once you order one and you have to sit and wait, you end up dreaming of ideas for the next one by the time you get the first one. It just kind of happens like that. And with the new virtual builder at kieselguitars.com, you can't go wrong. There's so many cool combinations on there. I just love how when one person comes up with a great idea, a great theme, they post it into the forums, and all of a sudden 5 guys are all, yeah, I love that. I'm going to do one, but I'm going to change that one little thing. I'm going to do, instead of doing the cream pickups, I'm going to do white pickups with the covered bridge and silver, and whatever it is, we have a lot of options for you. Traditional style looking guitars and more modern as well. Give us a chance, kieselguitars.com. Thank you for your support of this podcast, Jeff, and the team at Kiesel.
Players Pick podcast, picks and perspective with Chrys Johnston. Palpable.
If it's not too distracting, we'll go with that.
Oh, I'm fine with it, man. It adds a little flavor.
It's like the action cam. If I move over here, it follows me. Ooh.
Dude, I'm kind of jealous. I don't have such cool tech. You're gonna have to send me the link. I need this thing.
It's just that new Mac, the monitor they make now.
Oh, it's their new monitor that's doing that?
It's just some kind of weird tracking thing. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel about it. Anyway, good to see you.
Likewise, Nick. How are you, man?
I'm good. It's starting to get cold here in Canada, where I'm living, and it's my favorite time of the year with everything changing. And this is usually when I go back on tour, so it's kind of an interesting time of the year for me. A lot of memories.
Yeah, I can imagine. Are you headed out soon?
Saturday. So a couple days. Just trying to enjoy the last couple days before it's chaos for a couple weeks. You know how it is.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite times of the year too. I love the change of the seasons. My birthday is in November, so there's always a feeling of kind of slow, energetic buildup around that. And I don't know, change. I'm in a little town full of trees, man. So the whole town party, the town parties in this natural way that all the colors change. Every street gets all this crazy coloring, and
I love it. There's a park I walk to every day if I get a chance, usually every day, just to kind of watch it look like it's been slowly bursting into flames. The red, and yeah, I could go on about it. Are we technically going? Are we rolling?
Technically going. Yeah, I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, roll and start,
Great.
Baby. Just right into it.
Great.
Cut anything out if we need to, but.
Nice.
Yeah, man. I just it's been a while since we caught up. It's been probably 3.5, 4 years since I was at Dunlop, and we were chatting about picks or something.
It has been. I mean, the last time I saw you was at NAMM. You were at Kiesel, and then before that would have probably been 2018 or something like that.
Yeah,
I can't remember. It's such a blur.
It is, especially after with pandemic and all this. I feel like there's this weird wash of time that happened when that hit. Because there's all this fear and nobody knows what's coming next. And I mean, I still kind of feel that way, to be honest. Not as bad as it was, obviously, but it's kind of a strange thing, and explodes our timeline in a weird way.
Yeah, it really did. Are you still are you guys still doing NAMM every year, and that's a thing?
No, I mean
full steam ahead.
They did. So I did one NAMM with Kiesel post Dunlop. That was the 2019
So that's when I saw you then.
I take it back. It was probably 2019 and 2020, and then we did. So I did two. Technically, I did two NAMs with them. I'm still with Kiesel, full fledged.
Nice.
And things are going well. I think I sent you a picture of that guitar back
there. That's so cool.
I've been a fan of your builds that Schecter's been doing for you, and just like, oh man, that looks really good. I'm like, and after a while, I kind of lost it. I was like, dude, make me one like Nick Johnston's guitar, please. I really like it.
That's so funny. Yeah, that's that metallic green one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of.
I have that one back there somewhere.
Here, if you have it there, pull it out for a second.
Oh, sure. I think it's this guy here. Yeah. I assume it's this guy here.
Yeah, I didn't do a covered bridge pickup is the only thing. Yeah. And this currently has like a fret light thing on it, which is kind of
so funny. It's like pretty dead on.
You can see the little where it hangs over on the back. But I went walnut neck. It's a walnut neck with a rosewood board and Goto 510. Our pickups. I got a beryllium Alnico 2 here, and then some kind of what we call Mark singles, classic single coil style stuff. But
cool, man.
Yeah, man, you're an inspiration in all these ways. And my good buddy Joe Barton, who is a big fan of yours, and has copped some of your licks and studies some of the stuff that you do. I mean, I'm not as good of a student, to be honest, but he's kept me thinking about you in this way, because he's always check out this Johnston thing, man. Yeah, check it out. And I'm like, oh, that's
funny.
Yeah,
that's funny. Well, that's a very big, that's a big compliment that you did a kind of, inspired by build. So that's really cool.
Every once in a while I do it. Only the greatest players, right? So only Nick Johnston. Then I've got like a Stevie Ray Vaughan one over there too. So just you guys.
Oh my God. The same category. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, totally. Same. No, there's no difference. It's like equal. You guys have revolutionized the music world in the exact same ways. I mean, I think he was into comic books and stuff too. I think he was into all kinds of
comic books and blow. He was into a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure of it, dude. I'm sure of it.
I'm sure he was reading Spider-Man backstage. That's what he was doing.
That was there's a couple of very rare photos of him trying to get into the what is it, the McFarlane Spider-Man, when he came out with when McFarlane did,
that's right.
Yeah, I think that was probably just around what time when he passed away or something.
Yeah, that was early 90s. That's right. Yeah, McFarlane came on to do that. Oh man, absurd.
What's your favorite? Since we're on it, what's your favorite Spider-Man era, or do you have a favorite?
Well, I used to read a lot of comics up until, I don't know, maybe what year is it? 2020. But 8-10 years ago, I kind of stopped. Because I grew up reading them, and I had my dad's collection from the 70s and into the 80s and some into the 90s and shit. And then I started really getting into it when I was younger, and I just got to a point where, you kind of look at it and you go all right, they've killed Batman 8 times. We brought him back with a serum that we just happened to forget about. And then he's back, but now there's a new Batman, and then that Batman dies. It's just what are we doing here? It just gets to a point where it's no longer obviously the story. It's just about, there it is. We finally got the camera back.
What? Wide
now
angle.
We're zooming in.
That was just a teaser. Just a teaser.
This is action cam, I'm telling you. Anyway, I got to a point where I was just I can't keep investing in this corporation to deliver solid entertainment, because you can tell when they have to reboot, all right, what are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Every storyline that ever existed, cancel it. We'll start over. So that happened. There was this big event called the New 52 for all you 4 nerds out there that know what I'm talking about. And they re-released everybody's, like, every superhero you can imagine story, and I was like, I'm done with this. It just became a money, and then the comics became so expensive. When I was a kid, they're like $1.25. They're now like $6, $5, and I just, you're reading all these titles every week. You start spending $250 a week on comics. You're like,
whoa,
this is not right.
That's insane. That's like,
yeah,
I can see that. I stopped a long time ago too, but I still have like a love for it. When I see, because I had good times with good friends exploring, being in the comic books and smelling. I don't know. There's a certain smell, right? Like, especially if you got a collection and then you got a bunch of boxes and, oh, dude, you have that. You have an extra one, bro. Come on, trade me. Like, I need that one for my fucking thing, and.
Yeah, I was an avid collector, but then I just sort of, you just fall off. I start going on more tours, and next thing I know, I get home and I have like a back catalog of these comics, because it's every Wednesday, I believe. It's New Comic Book Day.
Oh.
So, you get home after 5 weeks and you have like, oh, here's $600 worth of comic. Like, I'm fucking out. I'm done.
That's too much. That's too much.
So anyway, and I'm not into the movies. I don't really get into that world anymore. I just look at it like it's just never done. It's never over. Right. It just keeps going. And I like to know that something has like there's some sort of arc, and there's going to be a resolution, and something's going to be like, oh, like, how many more times do we need an origin story? It's like,
right.
Anyway, I'm of that school, like, with that stuff, I suppose.
I hear you, man. And I think it actually, what it kind of strangely points to is, in a lot of ways, in popular media, there's just like 4 or 5 stories, and it's like rehashed in every possible thing, right? Movies, and there's in the mainstream media, mostly what you see is like this one conflict, regular thing, regular life, and then you have to depart from it, and somebody has to raise up and be a hero, and then it's like the hero's journey, and they come back. Yeah, there's a resolution, but there's a little cliffhanger at the end, so they can open it up for more money next season. That's right. And it's always the same shit. And it's for somebody that is creative as yourself, and probably finding a lot more solace in your music, obviously, and your career, than in comic books or that type of thing. I mean, we have our own tropes as musicians, right? And as creative people, we have our own tropes because we get inspired by people that create certain forms for us to, like, then potentially practice to or emulate. And so we end up inside of some of those and go, oh, I want to create a melody like that. I've heard Satriani bring this in and like work it to death, and now I want to find my version of that.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But it's obviously more wide open in the musical sphere.
Yeah. Actually, right now, what am I watching? My wife and I were watching the X-Files. So like going through, dude, I forgot. And this is like, because I was born in 87, so I grew up in the 90s, but I was a kid, wasn't really self-aware or didn't really realize what was going on around me. I forget how much style there was in that decade. Such a specific look. I mean, the clothing, the hair, I mean, the cars. I forget. I actually really like 90s cars, like the shapes of them, and they're kind of boxy and that very specific color scheme. Anyway, so I'm watching that, and I'm really loving that right now.
I love Mulder and Scully, man. That's
dude
classic.
It's so we're kind of burning through that right now. A lot of Halloween stuff. I've been home for a bit, so but yeah, man,
that's great. Well, congratulations. I want to say congratulations on I mean, we haven't talked since probably Remarkably Human came out.
Whoa. You know what, actually, I think I remember that one of the times at NAMM, I ran into you and David Maxim were talking. And I ran into you guys at a restaurant. And I think that was the first time I met you. And that was right when I put out Remarkably Human. So that could have probably been the last like full conversation we had.
I think
all those years ago.
And I think I have a photo somewhere of the three of us from that night.
That would make sense. Yeah. That would make sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, that you've put out 2 albums since then, and one more recent, Young Language. You have Wide Eyes in the Dark and Young Language. And
Yeah.
I've been kind of going through those periodically in the last few weeks, and
Oh, wow.
just remembering, like I've listened to them both, but I'm also in a weird position where I work with so many artists and everybody's sending me stuff. And so I'm always like, okay, I've got a meeting at 3. I better listen to that thing.
Oh man, I'm sure it never ends, dude.
So I know
just the stream of fucking just demos, just streams of demos.
Bro. And sometimes just yesterday, I'm sitting on the porch taking a break between meetings, and I get this random text from a number I don't have in my phone, and it's like, hey, I got your number from so and so, and I'm a really great bass player. It was like this pitch, and I'm like,
oh, I never even thought about that. Oh yeah, I guess that's going on too. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Can I work with how do I work with Kiesel? How do I work with the company that you're with? Right. And it was like, and it's like the person that gave him my number, like he's a good dude, and like I don't want to like clamp down on him and be like, yo, don't do that. Don't do that, but also don't do that. Like send him my email at least. I don't want to go right to texting.
Okay, that's actually a great topic or question. So whoever's listening, if you want to get into that side of things where you're working with a company, Chrys, what is the best way for a young artist that wants to get in with you guys? What is the way nowadays? Like in 2022, how do people do that?
Great question. And it's one that I'm always trying to answer. And so it's unique for me. It's unique at Kiesel because while Kiesel has a good brand presence in the market, we're not a big company. Like we're just not. Like we're a small company. We do about 4,000 guitars a year, which is in the grand scheme, like Schecter's, man, 4,000 a month, baby, or more. I'm sure like 10,000 a month or something. I don't even know what they do, but we're all USA made in the States, and USA labor, right? And as much USA parts as we can, all these things.
Yeah. I had one. I had before, when it was still Carvin.
Got it.
I had one when I was 18. I saved up for a couple of years and I bought DC 127C.
Cool.
With like everything you could get on it, with the quilted top and the abalone inlays. Yeah, I love that guitar. I think it was.
Do you have a bunch of switches on it too? Like for like.
Yeah, it had the espresso machine, and it had the like there was like honestly like 6 or 7 switches on that guitar. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's mission control.
Dude, anyway, so I cut you off. Sorry. So you're saying?
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
So in just to give you a snapshot of where I'm at with this company, and to work with me particularly at the company I'm at, it's like extra difficult at the moment because we have such a limited amount of guitar, and we're selling to our capacity every year for the last 5 years. Like we're
wow.
Like we're like over our capacity usually most years. Like we're in somewhere between 4,000 and 4,500 guitars. And Jeff continually says, man, I don't really want to sell more than 4,000 guitars. I don't want to swing shift at the headquarters at the shop. You just like, I don't want to move into a bigger shop. I'm happy here. And
that's nice.
So that's a unique statement, honestly.
It's very unique.
Most companies and most owners are like, okay, how do we get to the next bigger thing? How do I sell twice as many? Right. And I think it has to do with him being third generation, being around in the shop with his grandfather, and then being there all those years with his father and like learning the craft and realizing the headache. Because prior to making the switch to Kiesel, using the family name, when it was, prior to moving from Carvin into this, the numbers were higher. They were turning out between 6,000 and 7,000 guitars a year, and the average price at that point was around $799 to $899, $999, and those were still American made. But to do that, they couldn't put in all the coolest shit on it. Like they couldn't do the highest premium stuff because they were competing with ESP and Schecter and all the other brands that were importing stuff that were hitting those prices. So when he got the reins, he went up market with it as opposed to down market and lessened the capacity, you know. So look, it actually takes us more time and it costs us more on these quality materials to take the guitars up market. Let's do that and let's make less instruments, right? So
Right. Okay.
that's kind of his that's the way he views it. And so
Yeah.
knowing that there's this capacity limitation, every artist we add at a no charge deal, even, you know, it's a couple guitars for a couple years or whatever the deal is that we strike with them, we've already got so many artists that at this point that, like, unless it's a really significant artist that's going to bring a lot more eyes to our brand, we can't really afford it in this weird way. It's like, we can't afford it, but we can't, because it just starts affecting the margin. And we already run it at a fairly low margin, trying to be relatively competitive in the landscape, because more of our market competitiveness is like probably American-made Schecter stuff, American-made Shure stuff, like, you know, stuff that's in the 2000 range and up is kind of our spot. We have some stuff in the $1,500, you know, entry level, which our entry level is like 1,500 or something like that. So I say all that to say that for me, when somebody's submitting and I have to kind of write this back like 5 to 6 times a day, I should have a template, but everybody's a little different. But I'm basically saying, hey, you know, thanks for your interest. I appreciate you, man. But we're only really considering artists that have like 50, 60,000 dedicated, activated followers on one of the major platforms, right? Or have they're in a huge band, right? That like they don't have to have that many. We're only really looking at that because even though there's phenomenal players starting at 5,000 followers, 10,000 followers, you know, all these type of things. And this is a weird gauge in the grand scheme of things. It's like followers. What's your thing? But even more so now through the pandemic, right? Like there's a lot more eyes on screens and that whole thing. So you know, the live, how, you know, the tangibility of live concerts is still there. It's still an emotional, inspirational experience. And there's still obviously imprints and selling kind of happening there in a way, but it's not as like readily like, oh, look, that person put a post out, we got 40,000 views. That's great. Okay, next, you know, and like it's tangible. We know they're doing good. Or that person's on tour, and we don't really see that stuff unless it's somebody's posted about it, you know?
Yes. It's tricky to find that line now of, you know, of value and how that person kind of will continue to, you know, show value. It's a weird thing as a creative person to have to think that way too, because it's kind of, in a lot of ways, you know, like I gotta get followers so I can get my endorsement.
Yep.
I got in. I feel like I was just before all that, and I'm glad for that.
I think you were.
I was right at the tail end where I had guitar companies, like multiple ones came to me, which was not because I'm, you know, not some famous guitar player or you know, I'm worth all the attention, but it was just a different time. It was just like. And I'm talking, I don't know, 8 years ago. I mean, that's so some of the kids that are really crushing it online now were kids back then. So it was it was just different. So I wonder now, and I guess it is, you have to have these sort of 5 to 6 figure social media numbers because there is a saturation point, I suppose, now that has been reached.
Yeah. And you actually hinted right at the main thing. So to try to properly answer the question, the way I try to frame it is to say, look, you know, figure out what it is that you are good at in the social media landscape. It sucks. Yeah. I hate to tell people, hey, you have to get better at social media. I hate that. I literally detest telling young people you have to spend more time on a screen and more time learning how to do reels and TikToks. And like, because I really don't want to tell anybody to do that, because I don't want to learn how to get better at it. Not really, you know, in the grand scheme of what's important in my life, taking walks with my dog and looking at the trees.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
playing my
Sure.
instrument, writing with my instrument, expressing
Yeah.
myself, being with family. Those are important things, right? Like, so it's in a weird way, I'm kind of like, so what you need to do is do the thing I don't want to tell you to do, and I don't really want to do myself, like,
Yeah. I
but
guess it's business. It's business, I suppose.
yeah. And if you figure out and the way I mediate that statement is to say, look, you don't have to be good at all of it. And I don't think that it's important to be good at all of it. But if you find one or two things that you kind of feel like you're good at and you're drawn towards, get better at them, refine them, and then offer them in whatever way you can. And gauge the response, take a look, grow your socials in whatever way that is kind of natural and sustainable, right? Because
Yeah.
that's the problem is a lot of these young people will go to these workshops and they'll get just fire hosed with all the things that all the influencers are all doing, and they come back and then they get on that path, and they will see a lot of growth in the process, but they burn the fuck out so quick because they're like they're
Right.
negating their whole rest of their real life,
Right.
to
Yeah.
be online in this way. And
Right.
I hate seeing that because it causes all kinds of mental instability, all kinds of like health issues potentially, depending on how you already show up in the world. And so at the end of the day, it's about like being able to know what you have, to be clear, see yourself as straightforwardly as possible, young person or a person that's looking to get an endorsement. Lean into your strengths, work on your weaknesses if you can, and usually it's like the point at which some people start coming to you, right? And that it's the best time for an endorsement. Because if you got 1,000 or 5,000, even 10,000 these days, followers, that are active and stuff, that's great. That's cool. If people aren't beating your door down, maybe just keep doing your thing and keep working, because the thing that you're going to find at that level is going to be okay. You're going to get an okay deal probably, and maybe you'll get a great deal. Maybe you'll be one of the very few people that ESP Guitars sees a lot of value in, or Schecter, or somebody goes, you know what, we got you. Here's 3 guitars. Let's see what you can do, and let's see how you grow over the next few years. That's best case scenario right there.
Right. Right.
But oftentimes somebody will kind of go, well, they're a pretty good player and they got some followers, and then they'll give you a guitar or give you a discount on some guitars or pedals or whatever it is that you're looking for. And then you kind of get lost in the sauce, it's like, and then you're always feeling like you're fighting for, well, how come I don't ever get shared on your page? How come I don't get the love that, because you weren't really ready in the beginning and to be a part of the official roster of that brand
Right.
So
it's complicated. It's complicated.
Yeah, super complicated. And so
everybody. Yeah. And the thing too is like an endorsement, a listener, whoever's, listening, endorsement won't, it's not like it's going to change your life. I mean, if it's such a thing that's causing you to, bang your head against the wall, then just don't worry about it. Like I had a bunch of things with different companies, and it just, it didn't work out, or it just wasn't a good fit, and that's okay. You don't have to always just, like, I had a chance to work with the big company, and I didn't, because it was just like, it's not a good fit. I'm not gonna thrive there. So I went somewhere else.
I'm glad.
Thank you. And that wasn't until I was like, I don't know, I didn't start working with Schecter until I was, I don't know, 27. So it wasn't like I was I see some young kids are like 19, 20. I'm like, oh, that's young, man. I didn't even know what type of music I wanted to play until like a couple of years ago. So I was, I was just kind of waiting, just biding my time a little bit.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's the other kind of aspect around it. It's like getting your priorities straight around that stuff. Like, and just hear me out saying that, seeking out gear too much, or seeking out endorsements, or anything, those oftentimes are distractions from the craft, right? Like, and it's easy to get, oh, dude, I mean, I'm surrounded by guitars. I love the gear. Don't get me wrong, but
Right.
I very clearly see that having all the aspiration for the gear versus like just putting your nose down and trying to have the aspiration for how to write better, how to produce better, whatever it is that you're into, to try to stay focused on that, because there's a million and one distractions in the world, and that's why we sell guitars, right? Like, and Schecter's similar in the same way as Kiesel, right? You got a custom shop, you get a new guitar every so often. You're like, dude, my new one is sick as fuck. Like, everybody's like, oh my God, I want to order that shit. And so there's nothing wrong with that inherently, right? Like, we all love the gear. There's nothing wrong with that. But if it's just about gear and that's where it ends, it's sad in a way, because it's like, well, this is an instrument, literally an instrument to find expression on. So I hope for that for people more.
Yeah, that's another one of those fine lines, trying to sidebar a lot of those sort of, once I get this keyboard or once I get this computer, I'll finally be able to, write my masterpiece. Whereas I find the writing, actually, that muscle, at least for me, because I have a very specific way I do things. I have to in a lot of ways, I have to completely remove a lot of the gear. Like, I don't actually write with a guitar at all. So the gear in a lot of ways doesn't really serve me from an expression standpoint. Yeah, because I can play my guitars and stuff, but I write everything just sitting at a piano. So it's very much just kind of just stripping it down as much as possible. That's always been my way of sort of keeping that process very much, bare bones, and if I can't make it sound good here, let's rethink, and then I'll slowly, bring more gear and things into it.
So you write most of the melody and most of the concepts on piano?
Everything.
Wow.
100% of everything. Yeah, everything.
Wow. And are you the primary key piano player on your albums then too?
Depending on where I was as a player, you'll hear more of me on the album. I've been playing since I was 18, but half my life you'd think I'd be much better, but I'm only now getting the confidence to, like, all the last, let's see here, Young Language, some of the archival stuff. I have another band, and then all the stuff I've done with this other band with my wife. That's all me doing the keys, and me moving forward. I'm gonna do them all. It's another thing to kind of be humbled by. Speaking of which, also trying to sing.
Bro, good job.
Yet another thing to be kind of like, oh shit, let's see how this goes, and to try and grow and keep moving forward.
Did David Maxim do a little bit of keys on one of yours?
He did. Yeah, he does a lot of the horn and string arrangements too.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've been working together for I played on one of his songs probably 7 or 8 years ago. He did he did these 2 EPs, Ego and Eco. I don't know if you remember those.
Oh yeah, I love those.
Anyway, I played on one of those, so I've known him for forever.
Yeah, he's wonderful. He's the last pod before you.
Cool.
Hasn't gone up yet. By the time this goes up, that'll be up. But
yeah, I love him. He's one of my best friends in this world. Yeah, he's great.
He's easily. I don't know. I could talk for hours about how much I love him and his music and the way his composition manifests in the world, and how he. And I see a very clear parallel line between you guys. There's and the word that would maybe combine, or that overlaps to me is patience and spaciousness. Like these type of like you both have a sense of like a real profound sense of space in your composition. I mean, and you both express it in different ways, but I can, that to me, that's what I feel like there's like a through line. There may be others.
What a beautiful compliment. I mean, that's the hardest thing to do, I think, is to shut the hell up.
Bro, you're not kidding, man.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot, him and I, we talked quite a bit about that stuff in composition. I learned a lot about him and his background, and just from touring together. And the one thing I think, and I'm fully kind of caught up on who I am as a person. I'm always kind of working on that stuff. So I'm aware that one of the reasons why my music does sound the way, and his as well, is there is a sort of sensitivity in each of us, and there's this sort of like real emotional thing that and I lean into it. Like, I don't run from that. I never have. So my music, I have to have these sort of like these like low dynamic things, and then all of a sudden it comes up and there's a solo, and then this really pretty clean thing, and then I'm trying to weave these other influences in, and a lot of it is just like I'm feeling so much shit all the time. I'm just trying to get that out, and it was we kind of had that in common. And there's just like this urge to always be taking advantage of because I'm a full-time musician, as is David. Well, now he's a full-time father, I suppose, but the taking advantage of all of this time to learn how to not to get too deep at noon, to like crystallize those emotions into music. And every time I make a record, it's just like I'm trying again to do that. I don't know, some records I don't do it as well. Something happens, I don't get there, but like it's just every time I'm just here's how I felt this year, and here's my new album. You know what I mean? And there's something cool about that, because it has to me, because it has nothing to do with getting better as a player. It has nothing to do with selling more records. It has nothing to do with I have to do 4 albums for this label. It's just, here's my kind of emotional dump is this next record, and it's very satisfying, but it also makes it so you can never stop, because it's such a therapy, and it's such a beautiful thing.
I like that.
And I can do it all here now too, so I don't have to worry about
going out to another studio or doing other things.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, that's a perfect case scenario in a lot of ways, I think. I mean, everybody's different, but like, I think when I feel drawn towards your music and David's music because of those elements, because of the dynamic, because of the sensitivity, because there's always something beautiful. That's one of the things that David really helped me tap into when Bilo 3.0 was dropped on me. I remember like hearing the whole intro to that and just like, who the fuck is this guy think he is? This is cinematic masterpiece, right? And I was like on the verge of tears before the first like real like riff came in, the melody that was coming in, the soaring, that I could already feel that there was an emotional story like embedded in it without any lyrics. And I think that you carry that as well. Now you're working with lyrics as well, so that's cool. I look forward to see how that develops for you.
It's definitely gonna need some time to marinate.
Speaking of but
I'm fine with that. It's a beautiful thing.
Hey man, I think you're doing great. I want to say about the singing that let's say on this track Crystallize.
Oh yeah.
I love this, and I love this track. And I was like sitting the other day, I was listening to it, I'm like, this, like, there's a strange familiarity around like Nick's voice. I'm like, who is it reminding me of, or what is the thing? And it was like probably the 3rd or 4th time I listened to it, and I was like, oh, it kind of reminds me of Jerry Cantrell.
Oh,
And
cool.
I don't know if you
That's a
ever,
huge, I'm a huge fan. Huge
are
fan.
you? Okay,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Huge fan.
cool.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. As a songwriter, big fan. Big fan.
Yeah. So there's some sort of commonality there. I don't know if it was ever, if there's any intentionality there or, but
No, never really any intention. I'm still very shy about the sound of my voice. I think
mm,
so. I made this record over the pandemic with my neighbor. Um, I was neighbors with this gentleman, Ben Reagan is his name. We were neighbors for like, I don't know, 15 years, and
mm,
over the pandemic, things changed. So I was at home a little bit more, a lot more, and so was he. And one day, I just kind of, saw him walking his dog, and we started talking because we're the same age and we hadn't connected in a while. And then the next night, I took my acoustic over, and we were just playing music, and I helped him finish a song, and I was showing him some of my stuff and whatever. And I go, yeah, I have this song. Oh, we're zooming out again. No, we're not. We have so weird.
yeah.
He goes, I have this song, so I put this thing down, and I go, here's the chorus. He goes, no, sing it with me. I was like, sing?
Mm.
I'm a guitar player. I don't sing. But and the subtext with that is I'm too embarrassed, to sing. But
Mm.
I did it. It felt great. I got the my skin pricked, and I thought, oh, this is something exciting, and just it went from there. So it started very humbly in my neighbor's basement a couple of years ago. So I'm still like, I don't know if I'm going to tour with that and sing
Mm.
for at least a few years because I just don't feel ready. But it's fun, and we did a practice last night. Ben and I, we twice a week we still do it, and we're putting a new record out next month, and then a new one next year. It's just I'm not having, my wife and I are having kids, so I just have time.
You just have albums instead.
I just have yeah. We have a cat, and I got 8 albums or whatever. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. It's great. I love that it's kind of an organic thing that happened with a buddy, and it was because I've tried to sing different times throughout my life, and it's a very self-conscious situation, especially for somebody that I don't like. For myself, I think I'm not naturally in pitch necessarily, like, and the voice is so like easy to like be wrong or out, or
Oh
wonky. And
yeah,
even if
yeah.
you're in the right pitch, but if the inflection feels like less than mature or less than like steady, you're like, oh, delete.
I know, and I had a really hard time hearing myself back, especially because all of our demos are so. I kind of produce the music here, so I'm always happy with the sound of the material. But when I put my voice on it, because it's not tuned, it's not mixed. But I just kind of got to a point where I'm like, man, I need to figure out a way to get used to it, and I just kept doing it. You get to a point where you just punch through that kind of self-loathing, and you're like, oh, that's just the sound of the voice. You just get used to it, And
Yeah.
I had a billion reasons not to do it because I was like, oh, my fans are gonna. I don't give a shit. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. And again, I'm not beholden to any sort of contract of anything, so I can kind of do whatever I want. And honestly, just doing instrumental music, although it is wonderful and fun and scratches a very big itch, this is just something entirely different. And to just do one thing, I think would be, I don't know, would be kind of boring. Like, I don't want to just
Hmm.
I don't want to sit here and write instrumental music all day. That sounds terrible. That sounds like a nightmare to me. Just
Yeah.
worrying about solos all, like, fuck that. So I wanted to try and just do that. And by doing that, I'm now working with another person,
Mm.
and a lot of to properly collab, like to write and to like, oh, that line sucks, let's fix that. Or like, we have a band meet, like just all that stuff that you don't sort of develop or push for, or that camaraderie you don't have by being, you know, just a solo artist in a room with your guitar and your piano.
Mm.
You know? And that's a thing. That's a set. Like, to me, the greatest thing that ever happened musically was meeting someone who makes you feel that sort of magical thing about music again, and to have that again every week, twice a week, and release records at like 35 now. I mean, that's usually shit that happens when you're in high school and your early 20s before life kind of does all these weird things to you. So like, I get to have that still, and that to me, like, I don't need to make any money with it. I just want that. I just want that feeling, and
the experience.
And him and I, we get to do that, you know, twice a week. And
that's
and
incredible.
Then I have a project with my wife as well, and she sings and I write the material. And
I was going to ask you
like
about
just
that.
it's just such a cool, like, I don't know, just such a cool experience. And she's an artist in other mediums, so, you know, we just kind of talk, hey, we should try and do something. She has a great voice, and then we just ended up writing a bunch of stuff, and because it is the age it is, we can just release it very easily.
And you got a new single. I mean, by the time this airs,
Tomorrow
it'll be out,
yeah.
but it's tomorrow, right? Yeah.
Tomorrow.
And there's a full length coming in the next month or so, or what is it?
No, we're just doing a couple songs and just to do it, and then we're gonna do, what are we doing in January? I wrote a bunch of stuff, so we're gonna record a bunch more and just kind of release it when, like, Sachiko's cool. She's kind of just like, we talked about the other night. She goes, you know, if we have stuff that we're excited about to release, we'll release it. If we don't, then we don't. There will be no album. There will be no more music. It's just 100%. Do we like this? Is this feeling good? Are we enjoying this? And you'll get more. If it's not, and she doesn't want to sing anymore, write lyrics, and I don't particularly, then it's done. It's like, that's a cool thing. That's like that's like the opposite of the DC Comics thing we were talking about, where they keep killing Batman.
It's like, so pure.
This has just this exists and will continue to exist if both people who are doing it kind of look at the situation and go, I'm excited by this, let's continue. It's very, very cut and dry, but I like that, because my solo career is, you know, knock on wood, I'm going to be doing this till I'm, you know,
as long as you want, as long as you can.
Pile of ashes. Yeah.
So. No, that's so wonderful. I love the branching out into the singing. I love the music. This first track, "Becoming," with your wife, is amazing.
Oh yeah, thanks, man.
And I like the video.
That one was really fun. That one was really fun to do. But, you know, I don't know. I get so caught up in just the time when I'm home, the in between tour time. I get so caught up in just like, oh, I want to create this. It's just so great to be around people now too that kind of feel the same way. You know, I was always very much like, you know, I was putting an album out every year, so that's a lot of work, and it was very self-motivated. But you just get to a point where you're like, I want to collaborate, and I want to see, you know, where that influence can take me and what I can maybe bring to another situation. Because of course I always wanted to, maybe, you know, I wanted to play in a band. Who doesn't? But I lived in a very small town, so I just did everything myself, and that became my solo career until Ben and I started doing stuff together. So
yeah,
cool.
Speaking towards, I mean, that's like a constant conversation I end up having with different musicians throughout the years is like the ability to do it all yourself versus the collaboration piece, right? So like some people are super able, or they find themselves, they work to that point where they could, like you said, you know, like just out of circumstance, I figured out how to do it all myself, right? There wasn't the people available. But then when you get a taste of true collaboration and somebody that comes along and inspires you in a way that, especially when they show you, they add some sort of depth or character to something that you're up to, or vice versa, and you find yourself in a similar place. And I mean, I love both, but I also I yearn for the time when I used to have with the band, like back up in Seattle, like all these years ago. Like, I mean, I don't miss the headache. There's like 10 tons of headache that comes along with like an active democracy in a band. But I miss the showing up to practice and just kind of hearing what other people have been working on that week.
Right.
And they're like, oh, dude, check this thing out I was doing in 5/4, blah, blah. And you're like, bro, I have a thing that almost goes with that already. Like, did you hear the thing? Oh, no, here, let's try to put them together, and then you got something bigger and better than either one of us could have ever put together.
Yeah.
Instantly,
Yep.
And it's like a big high five session.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. So I would hate to miss out on that, because I did miss out on that for 30 plus years. And then there's something really cool about almost not even caring. It's easy to say I don't care what people think of my music. It's really easy to say that, and it's really difficult to actually put that into practice, because you spend so much time on it and you want it to be well received, which I do. When people say they don't like what I do, it's like, it's hard to hear that, but it is what it is. It's fine. But when I'm working with bands, it's this like true, like I truly don't give a fuck if anybody likes it, and that's so lack of a better term, unshackling. Where it's like, man, we can just every ridiculous idea or every stupid thing, and let's get real stoned and work on this chorus. And we do that, and I'll mistake a word he said, and it's like, that's a better word, and then you got this, like, just the energy, like I'm so Ben he wasn't necessarily a musician. It was kind of more of a hobby for him, so he's not really in that world, and that makes it even better, because there's just like this excitement about music, not like, oh, if we put this out, like the streaming numbers, like, who gives a shit. Like, it's just a guy and another guy that like doing this to it. So anyway, so I would hate to miss out on that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, that's
find your band, everybody.
Exactly. And and you may find a couple different ones that, like, for me, my longest collaborators, my buddy Don Wade. Thankfully I'm back in my hometown area, and I'm close to him, only about 30 miles away. And 25 years ago or whatever, when we were teens going into 20s, we were messing around with trying to make hip hop and try to make metal, and we got a 4-track that was like, the cassette tape, you put in there, and you could only do 2 tracks, and then you had to go back and mix that down and do 2 more tracks. And
I had the same thing.
Yeah, so it's like back in that day, we were just like, okay, nobody's going to care. I mean, there was no social media, so there was no way to like get famous off of anything anyway, according to us. So we were just stoners in a bedroom going, what'd be cool is let's make we'd make the stupidest songs, like, and still to this day we remember some of the titles and some of the stupid lyrics and their inside jokes to us, and then these years later, I get up in Seattle, and with our other mutual friend Ryan, we're just like, hey man, let's start a metal band for real. Like, let's find a drummer and just see if we can like play some shows and just see what happens. And end up spending like 5 years or more, doing demos, did a couple of tours. We got like we understood, and we go, okay, this is really difficult. Like, this is like not for the faint of heart. If you want to keep a band together and be on the road, bro, that's one of the biggest endeavors of life, and people out on the outside don't understand it, right? I know you probably know this. People go, oh, it's so great. I bet you love being on tour all the time. You're like, well, yeah, but also it's like, it's not easy, it's a lot of things to consider, to go into consideration for that to happen. And all these years later, like, I still have my buddy Don, and anytime we come over here, we get stoned, we'll like play with hip hop beats, play with guitar stuff, and we have like gigabytes and hard drives full of stuff that will never be released, because it's just us playing around. We don't care, I love it. So I really vibe with that.
That's great.
That feeling.
That's great. I can really relate. Truly.
I wanted to ask you too, on the title track of Young Language. So, I mean, forgive me if this is totally wrong, if I'm just like way off, but like, there's a melody in there that it feels like it's quoting like something from Star Wars to me, like from a Star Wars. Because I'm not good enough to like know for sure,
Mm,
but like
mm.
that is, am I totally wrong on that already?
I don't know outside of like the main theme from Star Wars and maybe the Vader theme. I don't know much of the music, so
No,
I don't know. I don't
it's
know.
like a
I don't
piano
know.
thing I think that's going on that it's like it's a subtle thing that and I could be wrong. I'll have to go back and try to find it in the Star Wars or
But I will say, you might be onto something because the a lot of the harmony and the sort of arrangement and in a sense the way these songs flow, especially that one, does have a lot of the similar harmony you would hear, in a film score. Doing a lot of these things where changing the key a specific way. Uh, the way a verse will end, and I'll grab a string line to come in. Like
mm,
I can totally see, why. And in fact, I have had other people say this sounds like a film score. It's just using a
oh,
lot of those similar techniques. And I
I
mean,
see.
film music and uh, I suppose TV or video game music uses very specific harmony that you don't typically hear in too many other
Mm-hmm.
mediums. So yeah, you're definitely gonna get a lot of. You could probably pick a bunch of my songs, be like, I'm hearing a little bit of this, I'm hearing a little bit of that. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that
But
was
I'll
it's just
take
it was
it's a big compliment.
no, it is. It's a very cool moment, and I'll even like I'll try to find the section and send you a text later that says,
Sure,
"Hey,
sure.
this is the section," and it reminds me of a spacious moment in one of the I don't even know what movie it would be, but probably original trilogy. It's almost like a moment where they're looking out at the stars from one of the ships or something. It's not like a big triumphant thing. It's the more mellow thing that
Right.
almost feel like it's aiding in the background and how you feel about what you're seeing. It's not. It's a very subtle
Yeah.
thing that I was like, oh, is that a quote or is that just like a nod or is that like I didn't even mean to do that. It's just I used a similar approach or
No,
whatever in my music. So
no. That's cool. That's cool that my material is pulling out visions that are on the level of a John Williams score.
yeah, totally.
So thank you.
No, no problem, man. I just thought that I would ask just because it was a thing that caught me kind of off guard. For a minute, I was like, what's going on? Because I was listening to it. It was I was in the other room. And that's what I'm like,
Mm,
did the music, did something change that am I suddenly like on a Star Wars like soundtrack or something? And then
mm.
and like, no, that can't be right. Oh no, it's good. It's Nick playing. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, no. I don't know much. I don't know much I wasn't really a Star Wars guy, so I don't know much about it.
Okay. Well then,
Yeah.
hey, no worries. Um, but I appreciate the overall like uh how do I want to say it? I guess the sense of presence that you have, like and this plays into uh the spaciousness, the sense of composing, being a composer, and in doing this dynamic writing of music in this instrumental way that is guitar centric, but um,
Yeah.
I feel like it's really neat to feel all these different levels of where you are inspired come through your music. And uh one of the things that I always retain about your playing is, and I know that, well, I don't want to say I know, there's a feeling of you kind of keep this sense or this feeling of like the improvisational quality that sounds like it's there in your composed music. And I just don't know very many players that are able to keep that, like, because a
Right.
lot of times it's like, oh, I'm composing and this is the thing I wrote, and and you know that, or
Right.
I'm improving and you know that. But
Right.
like
Right. Right.
I don't know, can you speak to that to some degree? Is there an
Yeah.
element?
Well, it's interesting. The whole creation process to me is I don't know if this how this will come across. I might sound a little bit, out in left field. with a hockey stick or something. But the thing I'm always very conscious of is the whole thing of like, okay, writing music, eventually I'll put it out and people will hear. For me, the like I love more than anything in the world, and I'm truly more than anything in the world, from a non, human perspective, is sitting here either in the morning, the afternoon, the night, whatever, and just working on the music and figuring out new ways to put things together using my up-to-date ear, using my experiences. That is the experience. There's this whole thing of like, when I put the album, fuck the album. Day to day, I'm having the experience. Every day I'm in these moments and I'm developing the music. My whole thing is I'm trying to just like, as I'm creating the demo, that experience of like seeing this kind of thing form is everything. And a lot of it is reaction. I'm not sitting here with a whiteboard and, I don't write anything down. I'm working. I'm just every day, typically the same time every day, multiple hours. And by doing that and just being in a position where everything I'm doing is based off of a reaction, that inherently has that sort of off the cuff instrumental, improvised feel. And the more I can do where like, oh, okay, if I have this pitch, what am I going to do? How am I going to they can't see my hands, right? But how am I going to outline this pitch? And then, you develop your technique and your playing and your understanding the music. And then you just start to kind of be led by reaction. And that might be what you're hearing. I mean, when I play the guitar on stuff, the very last thing I do, I don't sort of, luxuriate in solos and doing 1,000 takes on something. I don't, but I will kind of live inside the creation process and like put everything where it needs to be and get to that stage just here. And I enjoy that. And I enjoy that so fucking much. Like that to me is the entire reason why I don't need to tour, man. I don't need to go and do a trade show. I don't need to do it. And a lot of times I don't want to do it. I just like, but you have to do it for human experience and to go and like experience life and stuff. That's really cool. But like the whole thing of just sitting in here working and it's, oh man, this is why I do it. So it does have that improvised feel. Cause it's, if I may say that's authentic. That's nothing. I'm not being like, oh man, I got to put a chord in here that I hear a lot of people doing now. I want them to hear that I can use that chord too. I have no use for that. I just, I like, okay, well, I hate to relate it back to a different artist, but, and I know this is very elementary sounding stuff because of his output, but you look at one of my favorite creative people of all time, Stephen King, and his whole thing, he still puts out like 1 or 2 books a year, regardless if they're any good, doesn't matter.
Right.
His whole thing was, if you want to be a great writer, there's just two things. You just got to read a lot and you got to write a lot. And I just try and do, that's just what I try and do. And yeah, I'm going off on a tangent, but the improvised thing and maintaining that is it's not even something I think about. That's just how I've been developed. I've been writing music for 21 years. So like, I'm starting to really have a method. I know that sounds crazy, just starting to have a method, but the evolution that has taken place to get to this place mentally now is, it's long and arduous. It's a very long path, and it can't be supplemented with anything other than the work. And I am very grateful that I love the work more than anything, more than even playing guitar. I love working. So,
Well, that's a great answer, Nick, because the things that I'm hearing here are that Well, you've found a way to set yourself up to be comfortable um, putting in these hours and the time. And so when it comes time that to lay a solo or whatever, you're not in a contracted position or feeling like you have something to prove. It sounds like you're just like, oh no,
Oh God, yeah.
yeah. You're just like,
Yeah.
and I think that that's the part is like, it depends. What is your intention around what it is that you're doing, whether it's music or anything, right? And if your intention is to, find fame and fortune and get all the girls and be popular and do the thing, and then you're gonna go for, you're naturally, there's gonna be some element of you that is, you know, pushing towards trying to be impressive, right? In some way. And some people are just naturally impressive. And as I believe you are, you're a naturally impressive guy in this realm because of it's kind of like, it feels like you're like, okay, well, I'm here now. I'm going to put one of those there and put a little bit of that there. I feel like a Bob Ross moment, like a happy little tree over here, whatever.
happy little hybrid picked fucking.
Yeah, exactly. And so all these little things kind of get sprinkled into the thing as you finish it in a way.
That's pretty funny.
Versus having, oh, you know what? I didn't put any diminished chords. I didn't put any clever sauce in there for all my musician friends. I got to go back and put some clever things and make them know how smart I am. I'm intellectual. I can surprise you. Like if that's not on your menu, it sounds like. So,
well, I don't even, if that stuff happens, it's, if anything like that happens, it's because, you when you're in the middle, when you're kind of in the heat of that sort of creative process, and you've been doing it long enough to where you're maybe sick of a specific arrangement, or like I keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's like right around the time when these new breakthroughs happen, and you start to get, a different understand. Like, I know it seems really silly, but a big sort of big leap forward for me in terms of understanding rhythm was only a few years ago. And I just stopped tracking with an accent. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I just have the click just in even, 8th or 16th. So I don't count time as like 4. Like, I have a lot of stuff that will just naturally want to come out now as 9, or naturally want to come out as 5, or this bar needs to be extended, not because I've been given a chokehold by where the accent of the click track is. It was just another 8th note. So I decided I'll hold it for one more 8th note. Like, and that just started to happen because I was just too sick and fucking tired of programming. Oh, this bar has to be 7. And I go through at this point in the DAW. I'm just gonna let it run. And it was kind of a cool, like, oh, this whole we'll talk about young language, that there's a whole bridge where everything comes down, and does this kind of long sequence. And I remember when I was in the studio, we had to write out the time signatures because I didn't know what it was. And it was like, I mean, you can listen to it and count it. It's chaotic. It's insane. It's like, I don't even know what it is. It's every bar is a different time. But that's not because I was like, I want the prog guys to know I can play. It was just, oh shit, that's the way it came out. And that was just because I stopped recording or demoing with something as stupid as, I just pulled the accent out. So I just had even 8th notes. That's I don't know, something stupid, but it was cool.
Strangely genius. I'm sitting here listening to you talk, and I'm like, yeah, I mean,
if you just have steady, like, with no accent, it's not a time. It's just a bunch of 8th notes. So it's just, what do you want them? What time do you want them to be in?
Yeah. How do you want to dance around it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's
so silly. So silly.
It's gonna make me want to try that, though. I like this concept.
If you get into it, it'll completely change the way you work. But I have a very specific. I have everything always, like, everything's always on and set up. I can just kind of come up and hit, and we're good to go. I like being able to, just work. I grew up. I had no money for so long that I didn't have gear, and I didn't have I had some really basic recording stuff, but it would take forever to get it to turn on. A lot of times it would crash, things would break, cables would cut out. So like I vowed, one day when I'm old enough and I can afford it, I'm going to have a home, just everything's just going to be fucking on. So, I can just come in here and bam, right to work.
I have the same feeling and the same thing. I actually have one of these little remote control buttons that I have my lights on one, I have like the DAW and everything else on the other one, and I have like a heater or something, but so I can come in and press one button and stuff pops up and starts warming up, and like I'll grab a guitar, and by the time I'm sitting down, I just need to like press the button on Logic and it opens up, and
that's nice. That's nice.
Thankful like for that feeling. And and to go back to the Stephen King thing, I love that.
Oh,
I love that thing. Just read a lot, write a lot, go.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple. Yeah, it's it. But it just sort of levels the playing field. It has nothing to do with anything other than what do you got?
Yeah, like
what do you got?
From when I was young, I was always getting these sales jobs. I was this kind of an outgoing person, and I was actually working at a local head shop. Was selling bongs and dildos. Like they had like dildos in the back and like sex shop, and it was all rock memorabilia up front. And this random guy in a nice suit comes in. He's like, "Can I go in your back room?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, man. Show me your ID." And I take him back there and show him the bongs, water pipes back in the day. Couldn't say bong. It's like the weirdest thing. Can't say bong. It's a tobacco water pipe.
So funny, man.
So I'm in there and he's like, "I'm new to this, man. I just like, why would I buy this over that?" And I was like, "Oh man, well, these are the reasons." And I start going down the line, kind of giving a little sales pitch, like this one's easier to clean, blah, 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 and this thing. And he's like, "Man," he's like, "how much money you make here, if you don't mind me asking?" I'm like, "Not very much, man. I'm just like this assistant supervisor or whatever, and I make like $5.75 an hour." This is the late 90s. And
beautiful.
Yeah, it was super, super crazy. And he's like, "Well, hey man, I can help you make a ton of money. Like, come see me." I'm like, "Okay." Give me his card, and I end up going out, and it was like selling Kirby vacuum cleaners is what it was.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yes. So this guy was
vacuum salesman. Yeah,
I was a vacuum cleaner salesman. Yeah, for a couple of years.
That's from what I know. That was a pretty competitive world, with the trips and everything that you guys could win. And
oh yeah,
I've heard stories from about that world. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
I won a few trips and made a lot of. I mean, there was one month I made like, I don't know, it was like over $16,000 in a month.
Nice.
And
nice.
I was just 21. Like I was still a kid, and I went from making $5.75 an hour to this gig.
Nice.
And the thing that all the best salespeople around me taught me. Now, granted, there's a lot of there's a huge downside to that whole thing. I don't want to paint it in too rosy of a color, but the thing the major lesson I learned from it was when you go out knocking doors, and you're knocking on somebody's house. Granted, this is before like we all were texting and everything, and people were totally adverse to you knocking on your door, and it was kind of a normal thing.
Yeah.
But my van crew leaders were very clear, like, "Look, just play the numbers. Trust me. Go out, knock as many doors as you can until you get your 3 appointments for the day. And then every stage of this, we're going to show you where playing the numbers and asking for the sale, for each time is going to yield you all this money, ultimately. Right. And so
my God, yeah.
I look back at like that. And I'm like, wow, that's so great, because it made me less precious about asking for things. It made me less precious about like making a thing and it not being the right thing, or, it's one of the most like basic things. And so that Stephen King thing really rings true with me. I'm like, oh, just if you want to do something, read about it, study it, like imbibe it, and then just keep trying to do whatever it is that you want to do, and just keep refining and keep playing. And don't worry if the first 10,000 times you do it, it's not good enough, or you don't like it or whatever. Just do it one or two more times. Just one or two. And one of them is going to turn out. One of them's going to catch.
Yeah, and that spoke to I really like that, because that spoke to my learning process, which could also be slightly defined as psychotic. What do they say is there's like a definition of insanity if you keep doing the same thing expecting a different result. A little bit. I had a little bit of that, but I needed the way I was in school, and which I was so terrible at. But the learning style I had was I have to do something. I can't learn by watching. I can't learn by talking, but I have to learn by physically doing it and being terrible at it for a while until when I I was, like I said, I'm a huge fan of him. I was obsessed with him for a number of years. Hearing him say, like, if you want to do this, just if you want to be great at whatever this craft is, you just have to, the way you've been doing it, just trust the process. And at some point you break through and you start kind of getting somewhere with it. It was very confidence boosting to hear that from someone so talented. One of the greats.
Likewise, it's great to hear that echoed through you and your experience, because that's, people look up to you and your way you play. And I mean, you give people weekly homework, man. And like, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that about you too. So for anybody listening that hasn't studied with Nick yet, like, how many weeks do you have up of homework at this point?
Oh,
like,
yeah. Well, I just put up just over an hour ago. I just put up week 147.
Woo.
47. Yeah.
That's a lot of weeks,
so
bro.
It's going. It's been going for coming up to 3 years now, which is kind of crazy.
That's great. Yeah. So I think, one of my favorite philosophers, Alan Watts, he's quoted as saying, I've heard him say in a bunch of his talks, he's like, the fool that persists in his folly eventually becomes wise. So like, all of us on some level start out as fools in our chosen category, right? We're like, oh, fumbling around. I think it would be cool for girls to like me if I held a guitar. And you're not even fully sure, where that's going, baby. But like, but you see the dude, you see the person rocking, and you feel emotion around what's transpiring. You're like, maybe me too. Maybe also I can add to that that experience in the world and give somebody else that feeling someday. And
well, it's interesting. The way I got into it was also sort of a I don't want to say unusual, but the reason I got into it was I had my neighbor. I heard him playing from his basement window, and this was 2000, I guess. And this was still when you could knock on the front door without getting arrested or, shot or something. I went up and I asked, can I come watch you play guitar? And he took me down the basement. So it was just like, it was almost like that, the Pied Piper thing. I heard the music and I kind of followed it. And it was, dude, guitar for me, we're talking about, why, or, getting the guitar for the girls and all that stuff. For me, guitar was 100% related to self-confidence, man. Being 14 from a small town, going to a high school, not really knowing who you were, or being, I remember first day of high school, I got pushed down on the ground, and the OAC, which was grade 13 at the time, said to me, "Welcome to high school." I was like, anyway, so guitar was sort of my, I don't want to say it was something I put all of my where all my positive energy came from, whereas the amount of negative stuff happening. But it was sort of the thing where if I got better at this and I could develop on this, something that's speaking to me as a confused 14-year-old boy, I'll feel better tomorrow. I'll feel better the next day. So that's what music was for me. And I guess talking about that, the folly thing, where I was, I did it just to feel better. Eventually I you don't realize, but you're, oh my God, actually I'm getting a little bit better at this. And then, but just to kind of talk about, if I am inspiring anybody, I always want to try to boil it down to that first feeling. If anyone takes anything from me, it's just like, are you fueled by this thing, and you kind of don't know why, but you have to do it. I'm still that way. It's been 20 plus years, and like I was talking earlier, I have that with the band I'm in now. I have that same feeling. That feeling is the shit that will sustain you when your third album doesn't do well, or when the tour you're on got canceled, or when you see one of your graduating class members ends up getting the cover of a magazine, and like that shit will. It's that feeling. That's it, man. That'll be the 40, 50 years that'll be,
for the love of it.
Always behind you. I think so. I don't know. It's a long game, man.
It is.
Especially when you care so much about it, because you don't want it to be a thing where you go, it owes me this. No, it doesn't. Nothing. Music doesn't owe you anything. It's just like, this beautiful thing, and trying to remember why I do this. It's that I get to feel, I'm grateful every day for it.
It soothes. Music soothes the savage beast, and that's in us, at least in me. I think that's the thing. I mean, I was always loving music from an early age, and I think confidence was definitely a piece of the reason why I wanted to pick up the guitar too. I mean, I had seen other people play it. I'd listened to Steve Vai play before I ever picked up the guitar, because a friend of mine had traded me a tape, and I was like, oh, my buddy's older brother told me, this is the best guitarist on the planet. Like, I was in junior high. Listen to him. And I'm like, better than Jimi Hendrix? And I'm like, he's like, yes. And I'm like, okay. And but it wasn't until my buddy Ryan picked up the guitar when we were 16, and he started playing, and he learned a couple of riffs, and I was like, oh, dude, if you're doing this, dude, I'm getting rid of I'll do whatever it takes. I gotta get a guitar. Because like I just want to play a couple riffs because that looks cool. And if my buddy can do it, then I can probably do something. It might not be as cool as you, but I'll try. And I just, just the tangibility of it, and like how much time you want to put into it. Like you'll get out of it what you put in.
And the best thing too is those years, or whatever whoever listening, those years for you, my years for that, what you're talking about, where you're playing with your friend and you're just kind of, you're getting better, he's getting better, let's try stuff, was all through high school. So, basically I found a bunch of people that I was really like-minded with because of music, between like 15 and 19, before everybody went to music school and I didn't. We were always just playing together, and that took that whole thing of like, okay, I'll see you after school on this day, I'll see you on the weekend. That took precedent over even just like who was better. It was just, man, we get to play guitar together this night. We're going to, like, it was just about just being in the same room, playing off each other, and that excitement. When I think about it now, that's such a delicate thing, because now there'd be cameras, you'd have people be filming it, trying to do something funny so it can go viral. Whereas like, I don't want to sound like that fucking old man that goes, it used to be better. It just used to be different. And it wasn't about that stuff. It was just about like, a friend of mine hearing a lick or something in a song, or getting a Guitar World magazine and had the tab for whatever. And we like, oh, show them. It's just different. But, it was all those things, confidence, just wanting to figure out being a teenager, and like music seemed to be a better explanation than any health class.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Had my interest far beyond all the school stuff too,
Yeah.
For all the reasons.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Well, we'll start to wrap this up, but I'm curious about
sure.
What your feeling is around current music. Like, is there anything that you're listening to, or do you even listen to much music because I know you're always in the creation phase, so like some artists don't really listen to music while they're writing or while they're in that place. Like, is there any players, anything that you're up to, or that you might want to shout out?
I always listen to music. I can't imagine shutting it off, because I'm creating. one of those things where I just like need it around all the time. I listen to when I'm walking a lot of times. I usually go for a very long walk every day. I'm diabetic, type 1 diabetic, so obviously, you know, my health is a very very, very important thing. So I find for the walks, I listen to a lot of podcasts. Typically something that's going to make me laugh. But in terms of music, there's a Canadian artist I like a lot, and he's pretty unknown, much older guy. I think he's maybe 20 years my senior, but I saw him so this is kind of cool. A few years ago, maybe 2014, 2015, I live in this really small town. There was this event at this club, and I went and saw it, and this gentleman was the opening act. His name is John Southworth. It's hard to say, Southworth. I sound very Canadian when I say that. But he put a double record out in 2014 called Niagara, and that has been I know people might listen to that and go like, what the fuck? Because it's kind of like folk, rootsy, but with this just really beautiful, creative. I mean, this guy's been in the music industry writing and releasing stuff for over 20 years. And I relate to him in the sense of always trying to find new arrangement and new harmony and stuff. His lyrics are the weirdest of the weird. He puts out an album almost every year. He's one of probably my all-time favorite. And then a complete departure of John. I always love checking out whatever new Pat Metheny thing comes out. In terms of modern guitar players, I don't spend a ton of time on social media these days, but I did an event a couple months ago at a guitar camp, and there was a bunch of great players there. And I played with him in the past a few times, but really, once again, playing with Mark Lettieri, I'm just like, yeah, man, this guy. And he's interesting because obviously he's technical, he can play fast, and he can do all that stuff people value, but he has just a really interesting mind. Mark, I think, embodies what I'm talking about when I was saying earlier, and maybe the point didn't come across. So when I say reaction, I think maybe people will shout me out and say I sound like a complete moron, but I think so much of what we do is based on how you react to it with music. You know, how you would play over an E minor chord would be totally different than I. And not technique. I'm just talking about like, what are you hearing? And seeing someone like Mark react to like, oh, here's this band. There's 8 guitar players now. You're going to solo. Just see what his choice is. And it's not even so much what he played, maybe how he approached it. I was really like, I saw somebody who had such road work. He'd done so much road work. He had done so much listening, so much talking, so much teaching, so much playing, had so much hate directed towards him, had so much love. I saw everything. I saw everything in him as a player. And that was all in like fucking 5 minutes. Just like, man, that guy, he's an assassin. And, you know, there's a couple other, you know, really great players, but I don't really, sounds so jaded. It sounds kind of mean. I don't care about technique. I don't care. It's like, okay, you know what I mean? It's like, we have a couple modern technical guitar players that are so technical that it's like anyone who would need to do more than say Jason is just like, you know, what the fuck are we doing? So I like to see, you know, because Jason that's like his realm. Richardson, right, for those of you, you know, and I've had long discussions with him about that. He's one of the most incredible technicians who has ever lived.
Phenomenal.
Ever.
Yeah.
He's in his own class. So it's like, I like to see, so that's like a really cool thing about Jason, and a quirkiness in the way he does it is only the way he does it. Then I see someone like Mark doing his version of that, which might not just be technique, but it's like, he can do everything. Like, you give him a weird rhythm, even the way he moves his body, because I said to him, like, why do you move like that? so interesting. He goes, because for years, I was in jazz clubs on stage with an 8-piece horn section, and I only had this much room. So I had to like move. You're like, you even see like he moves different. It's just weird. It's just, but anyway, I'm rambling. I sound like a moron, but
No, not at all.
seeing someone like Mark and he's really cutting edge with a lot of that, the kind of funky, the fusion stuff in the Snarky Puppy universe, and then he's doing all the baritone stuff. And I really look up to him. He's great.
Same. I love Mark. He's a good human too, man. And not enough people know or give him credit for being also the guy that Erykah Badu calls on to be in her band.
Yeah, so, he's great, man. He can kind of do it all, you know. He can kind of do it all.
I kind of hear you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like when you say I'm not really interested in the technicality or the technique side of things so much, that kind of comes full circle to like how the wide open spaciousness, the compositional nature of what you do, your dynamic, the way the things that are important to you, I see them in your music, right? And it's not that you don't have hot flash and bang with the guitar here and there, right? Like that's obviously cool too, but there's more weight on the overall arc of what's trying to be communicated, right? Like the story of the environment, the feeling that you're trying to communicate from the previous year, that emotion, that quality, it sounds like. And so in some ways it feels like you're probably more drawn to somebody that just finds unique expression versus the most over the top thing.
Yeah. The over the top thing, like I said, it's cool. And it's great. People can do that to a point now where, it's never been done, but I don't know if that's like the hardest. I don't know, man. The hardest thing to develop, and this. You've been playing forever, and you've known all these great players for decades. To hear somebody and to know it's them like right away, that's hard. That's how impossibly damn hard is that? And if everybody wishes they could do that, but there's only really, so many people that you really can hear them and you go, oh, I know that's them. I don't necessarily mean I want to be able to hear that, but I like to see, personality. I like to see, that's him and only he can do that. Or, he's been in so many situations where he challenged himself, and that's why his music is like that, or his playing is like that. And just having that confidence that someone sees and like that, you get in a room with it, and you start playing certain things. You realize, like, man, what am I even saying with all this garbage? Get this shit out of here. And you just seeing a guy do it again, you're like, oh man, yeah, this is refreshing. He doesn't need any of that stuff, but he's saying more with it. It's just a unique perspective, I suppose. But you want to find a great guitar player, you just go on Instagram now. You'll find 20,000 of them. Just scroll through. Anyway, I'm gonna get jaded. That's pointless.
No, it's okay, man, and it's okay to school the younger generation with, we'll be old men if we're lucky, right? So, and I'm about 10 years your senior. So I remember I'm born in 76 or more, I guess, maybe. But there's the rest of the generations, past the cell phone age, will never quite know, the feeling of not having all those distractions, to have all those extra pressures and all this stuff, and to find a way to, obviously maybe that some of the advice could be to say, hey, look, leave your phone and your cameras off for a bit, and just like focus in and try to find your sweet spot. and
Yeah.
not be so
And
worried about that.
and then there's the other side, and then it's just like, or, you know, or not. I mean, like, it just, like, it depends on, like, not, I could talk about marketing and be like, yeah, all this, but a lot of people could hear and go, I have no interest in doing the road. And like, it just depends on what you want to do. I mean, that's ultimately it. And then it's just trying to sustain your excitement for it for your
Hmm.
entire fucking life, which is hard. It sounds silly,
Yeah.
but it's hard. It's hard, man, because guitar and, well, I don't know. I pick the guitar up some days. I can't, it's fighting me, man. It's a hard instrument,
Hmm.
and that's 20 years in. So you think it's just always going to be like this, but it's a beautiful thing. I'm not complaining. I love it.
Yeah. No, it's that, and that's actually a really sweet piece to add in there. So thanks for that, because I
Oh,
think
cool.
that it's easy to look at someone like you and your peers and go, oh, I mean, easy for you to say, man, like you pick up the guitar and shred so hard and barely ever miss a note on anything for any reason. And but to know that you struggle with it some days,
Oh
like
yeah.
just it
Oh
just
yeah.
like brings, it's not like I don't want you to struggle, but like I'm like I struggle so many days that
Yeah. I just had this. I just had a moment the other day. I was sorry to cut you off, Chris.
no, you're good.
Uh, I was playing here, and my wife, she was in the room, and I walked in. I don't know what the. I was just like, I was talking. I was like, I don't know what the hell happened. I suck. I suck again. What the fuck? And she just relaxed. But like that was like 2 days ago. So
Right,
like,
right.
what the fuck? I can't play anything. This is shit. So
Yep. And then
all that shit where people put stuff up. The danger is everyone thinks that's the first take.
right.
Let's just put disclaimers on all of our videos with a note that says this took 186. Like,
734,000.
let's, yeah. There
Yeah.
should be a thing where you upload the video where, like, it says embedded, like, 20th try or something. I don't know, something funny
So
like that.
so so the antithesis, yeah, even though I was starting to give advice around not filming and stuff, to be honest, where I'm at in my life, I have, there's that whole thing where like if people aren't looking and you're by yourself, all of a sudden you have a fucking magical moment and you're a fucking rock star in your bedroom. You hit everything right. It was the right phrasing and like everything. Especially for an amateur, right? That's not as well practiced, right? You're like, whoa, like I'm actually potentially could be a player in the world, right? You kind of like have dreams and you have the world opens up in
Yeah.
front of you and birds are singing and you're like, whoa. But so to capture some of those moments,
Yeah.
a lot of times I sit down and I record for an hour. I'll just video, audio, whatever. That way I'm not worried about the red light. I'm not
Right.
worried about the thing. And even in an hour or more of recording and playing, some days it's fucking shit, right? And I got
Yeah.
nothing. And that's good. It's good. I'm
It
playing the
is. And,
numbers.
I know exactly what you're saying. I actually, there's something very interesting that happens when you do have one of those magical moments and it's not filmed and no one knows about it. There's something just sort of like, like, I know I'm getting better. Like, it's like
Hmm.
you're not worried. You're like, nobody heard it, but that was for me,
Hmm. Hmm.
So there's nothing wrong with that either.
I just spent a decade of not doing that, not filming and not trying to capture anything because whatever. And then every once in a while I'd have those moments and like, why didn't I should have been
Yeah, yeah,
recording. And then
yeah.
Jack Black, I don't know, it was like a couple years ago or something where Jack Black in one of his interviews, he was like, always be recording. Don't
That's
fuck
funny.
around. Like always be recording because you're going to capture some magic at some point, and which is cute and awesome on one level. And then also too, I have like whenever I pass away, like I feel bad for anybody going through any of there's just like hundreds and hundreds of like, fuck that was horrible off, and I don't delete it. Oftentimes I'll just keep going on to the next thing. And so
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Me too.
gigabytes of
There's
shit.
gonna be hard drives of just like just delete. Just get. I should definitely burn all the hard drives at a certain age.
There you go. Just let it go. No, I finally did it. Like my old 4-track, I found my tape selection from my old 4-tracks, right? And me and my buddy making all those crazy songs. And I thought, oh man, I'm gonna buy a 4-track off of eBay. I'm gonna listen to these things and laugh, and it's gonna be great. I got the 4-track, put it in, was instantly like, this is horrible. I can't believe I ever did this. Why would I even dig this up? What, you know what? Yeah. And then I held on to it for a few months, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to put that in the corner. And then one day where I was cleaning, I'm like, nope, you know what? That goes in the trash.
Just bin it.
Just get go in the trash. Like, why would I hold on to
that shit out of here? No,
get the fuck out of here. Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. I'm done. Yeah. This is like 20 years later. Why would I hold on?
It's just so aggressive, but you know, it's very important to sometimes just be like, this wasn't good.
No.
You weren't great. It's okay.
It's horrible.
It's no worries. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, Nick,
anyway,
I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me, man. It's really good to catch up with you. Good to see your face again, because you were so burly for so long. Not that I liked it, but I'm just saying.
I had the big beard. Yeah, it's actually coming back in a little bit. But
are you going to let it roll for a little bit? Or?
No, those days are far behind me. Yeah.
Okay.
Those days are over. But yeah, dude, thank you so much. And I we had a couple of rescheduling things. I appreciate you being patient with me and getting me in.
Of course, man. It's always a pleasure, and I'm thankful for how you show up in the world. I'm thankful how you position yourself and the way that you are continuing to like lean into the music, and especially the cool way you hold the music with your wife. That's cool. Like maybe there'll be a lot of music, maybe it'll be just some of the music.
Who knows? Yeah,
love that.
Kind of cool. And, it's kind of cool. Yeah.
I want to encourage you to keep singing, man, because like it sounds good. I really like your voice.
Thanks, Chrys.
I can only imagine what the future holds for that. I could probably imagine you doing a singer-songwriter album at some point or something, you know?
Wow.
Like I don't know. I mean, I don't want to put anything on you, but like
you never know. You never know.
That could be a thing.
That'd be cool. Sweet.
Yeah, man. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And
thanks. And yeah, and whoever listened, thank you for listening. I had a blast on this one. Thanks, Chrys.
You got it, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, later, brother.
Players Pick Podcast, Picks and Perspective with Chrys Johnston.
This episode of Players Pick Podcast is brought to you in part by our good friends at Jim Dunlop Guitar Products, Kiesel Custom Guitars, Roswell Pro Audio and Microphones, Happy Cable Company, Copper Sound Pedals, and our favorite coffee company, Road Roaster Coffee. Go to roadroastercoffee.com and use coupon code PLAYERSPICK to receive 15% off all orders, ongoing, forever. Well, isn't that nice?